Welcome to Closing Day. Closing Day is a real estate show that's going to cover everything in real estate from the moment you first think about buying a home right up to the point where it's closing day. You have the keys in your hand to your own castle. My name is Geoff Grande. I'm your host. And today's topic is going to cover one of the most strifeful, hard issues when it comes to buying a home, besides trying to find a home you like, and that is the down payment. Everyone asks me this question. You know, Geoff, to get a down payment for a home, it takes forever to save up the money for that. And unless someone has a rich relative or if you have a high-speed printing press in your basement, getting a down payment put together is going to be really, really tough. But we have the secret for you today. And this secret is probably one of the world's best-kept secrets. We want to get it out so everybody knows about it. This secret comes from the government. Yes. Yeah, there is money from the government, and we're going to discuss how you can access it. Today, my guest is Anna McGregor, and she's from the Dufferin County,
The Housing Department of Dufferin County.
Housing Department of Dufferin County.
Yeah.
And Anna's going to help me with this grant plus others. Yes. So Anna, let's start off with some of the other programs. I believe there was a home renovation or Ontario Renovates program.
Yep.
Is that right?
So we have an Ontario Renovates program, and it's a grant assist program where a household could actually ask for up to $5,000 to help with repairs or modifications or changes to their house that would help them with accessibility. And the accessibility component is if, for example, somebody wants to take out a bath and put in a walk-in shower,
right.
If they want to maybe raise the countertops in their kitchen for wheelchair access, if they maybe want to put a ramp at their front door, basically things that are going to help you physically be more able to stay at home. Mm-hmm. So that works that we literally say to folks, if you have anything that you need to help you stay at home and or age in place, come to us, fill in an application form, and we can potentially give you $5,000.
Okay, so what type of person would need this? Like, I'm thinking of our aging population, for example, where seniors have a hard time stepping into a tub.
Yes.
Could they qualify for a program like this?
So all we say is when it comes to ages that you actually have to be the household that's applying would be the person putting their name on the form for the household is 18 and over. So we have had people who are senior applying for change to a bathtub. We've also had a family apply where you might have a younger adult who has a wheelchair and you maybe need to increase the width of doorways so that people can get in and out of different rooms. So your age, as long as the person doing the application is over 18 and that's the household person, age is not a factor.
Okay, and what type of things would this money be able to cover?
So we will say anything that would be involved in the actual renovation or repair. So that might be the physical contractor's work, it might be getting some plans done, it could be with building warrants or permits if you're requiring that. Okay. And if your costs are well over the 5, we give you the 5 and then you meet the difference between the 5 and up. If the costs are under 5, then we meet up to the value of the cost. Okay,
so up to $5,000 someone can get put towards renovations on their house.
Yeah.
And they can use it for a senior, for example. Now, does a senior have to qualify as in a doctor's note or?
So what we ask for is some kind of documentation, generally a doctor's note to say why this would be something that you would benefit from. Mm-hmm. So for example, when we have someone that's got a very clear disability, they will have all sorts of different documentation to say, for example, I use a wheelchair, I need to do this and this, it's very clear cut. If there's something that maybe somebody has a condition that might be progressive, that's maybe where a doctor's note that would come to us and would explain at this point in time they need this, but they might need this going forward, and that's where the ageing in place comes into play, because we do look that if we can give you something to help you stay at home, that benefits you, and there's been lots of studies and lots of research done that overall it saves everybody a lot of time and money.
Yes, yeah, I've actually heard that when a person is in the hospital, the hospital is trying to get them out. Everyone thinks it's because of money, but the medical society knows that people do better at home than they do in a hospital environment.
People are definitely better at home, and one of the things that we sometimes find with some of the seniors who are considering the programme, they wait till they're at the stage where they're maybe going in and out of hospital.
Right.
And that might be too late. If you start planning a little bit beforehand and before you get to the stage where you're stuck, that's a good time to apply for the money.
So this could all be part of estate planning?
It could be, yes.
Okay. And now you mentioned it can be other things, ramps. So we're getting outside the house a little bit. But does it have to stay within the property itself? Or?
It's basically to be a change to that property.
Okay.
So what part of the application is that we will ask someone to tell us the value of the property, and we make sure it's below a certain threshold. And then as long as the property is below a certain threshold, the household income isn't above a certain threshold, you've got the $5,000. And one of the other things that's important to note with this programme is we don't give the money to the applicant. We will give the money to the contractor.
Okay. Now, does the applicant have to, I guess they don't have to pay the contractor first. It'll actually be coming directly from yourself.
Yes, so what we would do is we would potentially, depending on how much the cost is and the timelines involved, once you've gone through the application process and we've determined you're eligible, we will send out somebody to your house to do a quick inspection. And the idea is we're making sure that we're not going to pay for a ramp if your wall's going to fall down. That wouldn't be any good for anybody.
No.
So once you've had your approval paperwork, there's been an inspection to say you've got the go-ahead, you go away, get quotes, give us the quotes, we work out who you're working with, and then we contact that contractor and say, we will now give you 50% of that money. Please start the work, and as long as they start the work within 90 days, we're all good to go.
Oh, that's brilliant. Now, what if someone has work done to their house, and it's a two-story, and they find that let's say our aging population, for example, finds stairs too tough to eventually climb, and they have to move. What happens then? Can they reapply for the grant for a new property, or?
Do you know what? We haven't had anybody do that, but depending on the timelines involved and where they've gone from, there is no reason for them not to put in another application and try.
Really? Okay. Now, you mentioned there were some restrictions on the type of home, so I'm guessing you can't have a mansion and then apply for a grant, right?
Yes, because the idea would be that you potentially may be able to have the funds by another route. So this programme is designed for people that might struggle to get the funds to be able to do something like this. So currently the threshold is $400,000.
Okay.
So that's the property value, and as long as the property is valued at less than that, you're okay.
Okay, and how do we get the property value? Does it have to be an appraisal involved? Because that's an extra cost.
It would be an extra cost. So what we tell people to do is to give us their most recent impact statement.
Oh, okay. And
so we look to do it that we're not going to make you pay any money just to put in an application. That wouldn't work.
Oh, okay. That's very, very handy then. So we've got a house that they can qualify for. They can make these changes within the home. And the changes, give us some examples of changes besides just like the ramps and tubs. What other things have you seen people do to their homes?
We have had the doorways widened for access.
Okay.
We've had stairs altered that, again, were wider. So traditionally what we're seeing is shower tubs rather than a bathtub. Widening of doorways for wheelchairs. We've had some people look at stair lifts.
Oh, a stair lift.
And we've had someone actually change all the counters so that wheelchairs could get in and get underneath.
I hadn't thought of that. So even kitchen counters, if you're in a wheelchair.
Yes, we've had kitchen counters changed, yes.
Okay.
So we will not, any reasonable request, we will consider.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, could it go as far as bedding, for example? You know, can they get I don't know, it's not a motorized bed, but electric beds, they tilt up, you sort of lean into them, tilt down, or is
no,
it? No,
so we're looking at fixtures and fittings to the house. So that would be something that would be a content.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be that kind of thing, no.
All right. And then once the person leaves the house for whatever reason, sells the house, I guess all those improvements go with the house. There's nothing you can really do about that.
That's gone with the house, yes. That's why there's a limit of $5,000 on the programme, that there wouldn't be all this money going out and then nothing happening.
Okay, and I think you mentioned that they could spend more than $5,000. You just do the first $5,000.
We do the first $5,000, and then the household would do the rest. Yep.
Okay, but you have to approve what the money is going to be spent on to start with.
Yes.
Okay. Now, have you ever had it? I get this problem periodically with people who buy homes and they want to put improvements on the home.
Yes.
And they refinance for an extra kitchen, and it's financed, and the money's being held by the lawyer to pay for this kitchen, and I get the call saying, "We love our new swimming pool, Geoff." So, well, do you ever get that with the...
Do you know, we haven't had it, probably because part of the application process is you do the paperwork, we get the quotes, we do the initial inspection, we go out and do a second inspection before we pay the balance of the funds. Now, that's not just so that the county is looking after the county money in the public purse, that's also so they make sure that the homeowner got what they were supposed to get to. Or renter, because it can be a homeowner or a renter if your landlord agrees.
A renter can do this?
A renter could do this if the landlord agrees. We haven't had any renters apply, but homeowners or renters, because the idea is to help the person where they reside.
That's amazing. So a renter could go to their landlord and then take it from there. They can change the building around as long as the landlord agrees.
As long as the landlord agrees.
You haven't had that yet?
No.
I have a feeling after the show you might get a few phone calls. That will be ideal.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Now, is this, what area do you cover? Where does this cover? Is it just... So
you have to be a County of Dufferin resident. So as long as you live within the boundary of Dufferin, you're okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, do other areas have this grant as well? Or is this
so what happens with these government pots of money is the government gives a lot of the municipalities a pot, and they say with this pot you can run several different programs, and it's up to you which programs you run and how much you put in those pots. So we in Dufferin have chosen to do Ontario Renovates and some other programming. Another area might decide not to do it, or they might decide to do it in a different way. So geography is definitely down to where you are and what your individual municipality does. So everyone in each municipality, if you're in Caledon, if you're in Bolton, wherever. And Caledon, for example, would go to the region of Peel and say, do you do this programme? And if so, how do you do it? And the rules will be a little different? Could be, yes. Okay. And now what about the amount of money? Is there lots of funds available? Is it restricted? No, what happens is we get a parcel of money and we're given a timeline to spend it. And it's a case of if you use it, great. If you don't, it actually goes back to the government. So it's one of the things we're loathed to do. And we have to project in advance how many loans and how many grants we think we might do. Oh, okay. And so it's interesting. So there's not lots and lots of money swishing around. We always say to someone, if you're interested, put your application in. Even if at that point in time the pot was empty, we could do a wait list. And we have had to say to people in the past, if you wait another month, the pot restarts, come back then. Okay, so how often does the pot get refilled? Currently, the 1st of April is when the refill date hits. All right, and so if you run out of money, they get put on a waiting list. And the worst case scenario, hopefully, would be April 1st when the pot or the resets where it starts again. Yes. And they can go with that. Well, that's amazing. I think after the show we're going to see quite a demand. April 1st just around the corner, so if we don't get too many people on a waiting list, if we get anyone on a waiting list, they'll get taken care of April 1st. Yes. And there's a timeline? You said something so many days before the work has to be done? So once we've given someone the go-ahead for the work, we say that the work needs to get done within 90 days. And that's because you're getting money from the municipality, but ultimately that money is actually also coming from the province. So there's a whole reporting mechanism that we deal with in the background. Okay. Now I also noticed that you have some shoes on. I do. And you're going to tell us a little story about those after this break. And welcome back to Closing Day. We were just talking about Ontario Renovates grants, and now we're going to pick up a new grant, which is the Homeownership grant, which is a down payment grant from the government. And I'll get right into it. Anna McGregor is our guest. Perhaps you could start off by telling us just an overall view of what this grant's all about. So the Homeownership grant that we do at the County of Dufferin is where we can give you up to 5% of the purchase price of the house to a maximum of $20,000. It acts as a second mortgage, but not in the conventional terms that you're paying us back a monthly amount of principal and interest. What we do is we give you the money, you use it as your down payment, and then nothing happens. Absolutely nothing. You get to hold the money, and that just sits. until such time as you sell. And when you sell, that's when we say you would pay back the loan. And we ask you to pay back the original loan plus 5% of the gain that you've made on the property since you bought.
Okay.
So a very straightforward process. You come in, you do an application, we determine whether or not you're eligible, and then you can go house hunting.
Really? All right. So the process is, and I love this program, by the way, and I like the way you're explaining it to us, because when I try to tell people this program, they almost think it's too good to be true.
Yes.
And when I tell them that it's like free money from the government, then they think I need to get a psychiatric test, because that's just, it seems way too far-fetched. But we get into the details, then they start to understand, okay, this makes sense.
It does. The government have done, what they do is, we do a whole range of programs. So in housing services, we do everything from the homeless prevention program right up to home ownership. And the idea is that you're trying to do housing services for everybody in the community. And the home ownership program actually deals with two segments, because the idea is you're currently renting somewhere and you're going to buy. So you're going to free up a rental property by buying, and then we've also helped you become a homeowner. So we've done two things in one.
That's great. Yeah. So as long as someone doesn't currently own real estate, they can qualify for the grant.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be the first home, though, does it?
Doesn't need to be a first-time buyer, no.
Okay.
So again, the simple criteria is that the applicant would be over 18 years of age. We ask that you go out and you have found yourself your own high street mortgage. And that is one of our pre-approvals, if you like, because if we can see that, for example, you went to TD or Scotia or CIBC, whoever it is, because we don't endorse any one lender, we don't endorse any broker, we don't endorse any realtor, that's completely your call. Once you've gone away and you've got that approval and come back in, we know that they've gone and reviewed all of your details. We do a quick review too, and you're given what's called a commitment letter. And the letter basically says, okay, you have got several months, 2 to 3 months to go and actually find another house.
Right.
So we're not looking for you to run out in 2 days flat and find something. We're actually giving you a window.
Oh, that's good.
To go and find something.
Yeah.
Now, occasionally you haven't found something within that window. If you come back to us, we can either say, I'll give you another commitment letter, or it might be that you go onto a waiting list because there could be other people in front of you.
Yes, and most financial commitments through banks and other financial institutions are conditionally really within 90 days, sometimes 120, but yeah, so they're going to have to redo that part anyway, aren't they?
Yes.
Now, if you give them, say, 90 days to go find a house, do they have to move in 90 days?
What we're looking at is closing. So we're looking at they've got all their paperwork, everything's in order, and we can then go and report back to the province, who ultimately gave us the money, to say that the money has been what they call committed. Yeah. It's there, no one else can touch it, because in theory the money's just all sitting somewhere in some great provincial pot. Yes. And they're looking to give it out to all the different municipalities. So until they see a purchase of sale agreement, they don't believe us that we say that that person's going to find a house.
Okay, all right, so they need to have a firm agreement.
So we need to have the purchase of sale. It's one of the things that we ask for, that because we use that in the background for the reporting. Okay,
if the agreement is conditional on financing, which is getting the final, I guess they have the okay from you, so they don't have to make it conditional on your part of the financing.
Nope. We would recommend that nobody would put in an offer before you've actually got your first mortgage in place, and then us sitting as second, then go and put in an offer. That would be the most sensible way to do it.
Okay, now typically when people buy homes, there's inspections done on the home as well.
Yes.
And you need a copy of that?
We ask for a copy of the home inspection. So what we do is we ask for a lot of the things that your first mortgage, and you would have been doing anyway, generally those sort of safeguards, the things that you do when you're going out to buy, we ask for a copy of all that. So we ask to see the inspection report, we want to see the purchase of sale agreement, we want to see the MLS listing if there is one. So no, we do look at all of those things, so that when you've gone out, you've got your commitment letter for 60 days. Once that 60 days is going, we're waiting for several things to go, yes, 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 boom, that money is locked now. It's gone.
Okay. Yeah. All right, and the money gets, on closing, the money gets paid to?
The solicitor.
Okay.
So the one thing we do stipulate is we have no interest over which bank, which broker, which realtor you use. We do say you do need to engage your own solicitor, and that is at your cost.
Right.
Because what we will do is once we've gone through all the process and everything is done and dusted, we actually give you a pack. And it's the loan agreements and all the legal jargon that goes with it that goes to the solicitor, and they decipher it all and they make sure that everything's all as it should be.
Aren't they wonderful? They do all that
You know
part
what
of it?
they are, just out of the goodness of their hearts.
Yes. Oh, thank goodness, because I wouldn't want to go through all that paperwork.
No,
That's
no.
for sure. So the money is, I guess it's similar to the other program we discussed.
Yes.
There's so much that comes every year.
Yeah.
Do you run out? What happens?
So one of the things with this program, and this is what is so wonderful about the Homeownership program, is that for people that never sell, that money you get to keep. That's it, it's gone. You keep it, you never pay it back. But if you sell, when the money comes back to us with that 5% on the gain, it goes into what we call as a revolving loan. And the revolving loan pot is all the money goes back in and then goes back out the door for somebody else.
Oh, so it can be reused.
So it actually gets
Excellent.
reused, and it's a very rare thing that we do in housing, but we actually get to reuse money.
Yes.
So the more benefit that we get of the program, the more people that come into it, the more people that then move on and go round. It's going to be one of those programs that is going to fund itself.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yes.
So even that 5%, equity appreciation profit, or whatever you want to call it, that goes back into the pot as well.
That goes back into the pot. So the original amount plus that 5%. So you're not giving the county the money, you're not giving the province the money, you're giving another homeowner the money.
That's amazing.
It's lovely.
Now that's going to be hard to get people to believe.
Do you know, people do say, really? But when we explain the revolving loan fund, they go, well, so it's not just a government scheme, it's not just too good to be true. You're actually doing something that's going back into the community.
That's great. Now, the last few years, we've had some pretty good increases in real estate.
Yes, we have.
And there's been a couple of examples, and I'll give you a broad brush on one that just amazed me, and I'm sure you've heard many of these. Mm-hmm. But it was a client that just over a year ago bought a house using the grant, and is now listing his house, and is going to be making about $80,000. Oh, wow. And that's just over a year, and using really no money of his own. The government got him into it.
Yep.
And now he's ready to move into his next home with his new wife, and the family's going to begin. And it's just, when I hear stories like that, it just makes it all worthwhile.
It is. We hear lovely stories where people think there was no way that they were ever going to be able to save up that money to do the down payment. It means that they get their first foot on the ladder. And then once you have that first house and you've got that little bit where you get the equity, you can go on and move on that you never ever thought was going to be possible. So we do hear really nice stories.
It's great. Now I want to loop around to the shoes.
Aha,
okay.
Yes.
Now I'm not sure everyone saw them. Perhaps you can give us another quick view.
Yes.
And there's a story behind these.
These are my very sparkly shoes, and I call them my housing shoes. And the reason I call them my housing shoes, we do housing forums every year, and we share information with the local community about things that we're doing. And my sparkly shoes were my interpretation of the ruby red slippers.
Oh.
And as everybody knows, the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
The one overriding feeling that Dorothy had was, there's no place like home.
Yes.
It was all about home. She wanted to get home.
Yeah.
So my shoes are the ruby red slippers. And why we shared it at a community forum was the Smithsonian Museum recently did a crowdfunding appeal to get the shoes repaired. Just a pair of red slippers, you think. They wanted $300,000.
Hold on. Really?
$300,000 to fix the ruby red slippers.
Wow.
They've raised $356,000 to fix a pair of shoes.
That's amazing.
Now, what could you do with that kind of money when you were putting it into housing programs, I wonder?
A lot.
Yes, a lot.
Definitely.
That would be a lot of home ownership grants and a lot of Ontario Renovates.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So that's the story behind the shoes.
That's the story behind the shoes. So if I stand and I'm talking and I click my heels 3 times together, no place like home, now you know why.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we've got the Ontario Renovates homeowner or grant program for people who need accessibility, anything from walk-in showers to ramps to redoing counters and kitchens and bathrooms.
Yes.
We've got the Homeownership Grant Program. There's no age limit on that?
No age limit on that, just over 18.
Okay, so just as long as you don't own real estate
Yep.
and you want to get into a home, you can borrow, and I think it's up to
$20,000, so 5% of the purchase price. So our maximum just now is value for the house at 400,000. So that is the 5%, 20,000 of your 400. So
Right.
yep.
Okay, and then that, so there's no restriction. They can buy real estate, gets you into your first home. There's no payments to be made. There's no interest on the money. If you stay in the home, you're never hassled to pay it back someday, like Uncle Fred would want his money
No,
back one day.
we waive after 20 years. It is waived.
After 20 years, it's waived.
After 20 years, it's waived.
So it really is free money.
It is. It is. Honestly, yes.
Oh, that's
So
brilliant.
after 20 years, you don't need to pay it back. If
Yeah.
you move within 20 years, you pay the money back with a little bit on the gains.
And it's just on the gains. So it's the profit anyway.
Yes, you
So
can only you can only make out of it, and it goes back to help other people.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Anna, I would like to thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
That was wonderful. And I would like to thank everyone else for tuning in, and hopefully you got something valuable from the show. Tune in to Rogers, Channel 63. Tell your friends about it. I'm Geoff Grande, and wishing you a good night. See you next time.